Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's Ag Forecast, brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions, your premier platform for real-time global insights. Well, I want to show you a map that I put in some of the videos at the end of last week, which is the National Precipitation Rank Map. Now, the data that you see here are actually valid from May 2018 through April 2019, and that number right there in the middle, 124, means that that 12-month time period from May to April is the wettest such time period on record for any May to April we have in the 124-year record. Okay? Look at this. 8 separate states set their all-time wettest 12-month time period from May to April during that. And if there's a dry spot, it was really only the Pacific Northwest where both Washington and Oregon really struggled with moisture. It's been extremely wet, and the beginning of May 2019 has really kept things going. There's a large section in the middle part of the country here that has seen, just in the last 14 days, an additional 5 inches of rain. And some parts of Kansas, Missouri, and Oklahoma picked up an additional 10 to 12 inches. And if you come right down here into parts of the Delta, getting into Arkansas, eastern Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, especially down in the coastal regions, we have some locations that are approaching over 20 inches of rain in that time period. And the flooding has been horrific in that area. Well, this same map tells us where we've not been able to get any field work done. In addition to the cooler weather here in parts of the north central Corn Belt, it's also been difficult to get much field work done. So the weather has been doing its best to keep us from getting anything done as we progress through this year. And the last 72 hours has been rough as well. Just look here. This is total accumulated precipitation over the last 3 days. Some locations down here in parts of Mississippi, Louisiana, and even getting back over toward near Houston have picked up an additional 6 to 10 inches of rain just in the last 3 days. Meanwhile, much of the Corn Belt, that with the slow progress of these pesky showers on some colder air that move through parts of Iowa, then over into the eastern Corn Belt here, really kind of ruining Mother's Day weekend for a lot of us. So the cooler weather that came in on the backside of this, well, that was because there was a pretty sizable ridge out west, and everything is about to change. But before I explain that to you, I want to tell you something. I've been getting asked a lot of great questions. Why? Why are there such stark differences between a year ago in May and right now? And I'm going to tell it to you right here. Now, I could talk a lot about MJO, and I could talk a lot about El Nino, and we could get into some of the details of all these teleconnections, but I just want to give you the bigger picture. When you look at that animation over there on the left, that's showing you the winds deep in the atmosphere. And when I look at it, we can see that across much of the northern hemisphere, the winds are relatively calm. Because of that, the jet stream retreated deep into Canada. We built in this big ridge, weather pattern stagnated, and we got into some heat, and we got into some drier weather, and we planted at a furious pace. But in May 2019, look at the animation over there on the right. Global wind anomaly is very, very high, which means the atmosphere is just cranking right now, and it's moving. And this is typical of an El Nino type year, but there's a lot of other factors that go into this. But we're dealing with this not only now, but for quite some time. Now, what am I watching this week? Well, the atmosphere is telling me, get ready for some big change. And the change is right out here. You see, going into early Monday morning, the jet stream is screaming across the Pacific. It splits into this ridge that's going over the Pacific Northwest, this trough that dives down here to Mexico, and they join up into this broader trough that's keeping the eastern part of the country cool and wet. But the ridge that's been bringing in the heat to the northwest, it's about to move into the central United States, warming us up, and the Pacific is about to change in a major way. And this is a pattern that, as we see evolve, is going to really light up the central plains by the end of this week with a lot of severe weather, and that's going to take us right back into that very active pattern. Now, before we talk precip, I want to talk temperatures. We're about to see changes here and here. You see, over the last week, we picked up a lot of heat in the Pacific Northwest, which has helped them rebound on this map, which shows you the growing degree day anomalies from March 1st through May 11th. And so we've really started to warm this area, picking up some heat, while it's been quite cool here. Well, you can basically just get rid of this and put a C there, get rid of that and put a W there. That's about to be a big change moving forward. In the southeast, you're way ahead on growing degree day anomalies. You're about to go back into a pattern where you keep accumulating a whole bunch more. So let's talk about this. Through the next 5 days, look at the changeover in the Pacific side of the country, the western United States. A whole lot rainier than we've been over the last 10 to 15 days. That's what the strong Pacific jet's going to do. As it breaks into that broader ridge, we can see that a big section of the middle part of the country is going to be relatively dry. We do have multiple chances of some scattered showers moving through and some thunderstorms, but through the middle and end of this week, a relatively dry pattern. What you see here in the northeast stretching down over toward Florida, that's the system that's leaving today, and it's just going to be continuing to bring some cooler weather out to the Pacific Northwest before this bigger breakdown in the pattern happens. So, over the next 5 days, this is the transition we're going to be seeing. Look at the warmth building into the middle part of the country. That was over the Pacific Northwest. The cooler pattern you see here, it is moving out such that by day 6 through 10, we go right back into this pattern. And that pattern featuring a ridge over the southeast, a trough that sweeps through the west coming into the middle part of the country, means that this is the corridor beginning at the end of this week I am very concerned about for a lot of very heavy rain and severe weather. We're going to have to watch it very carefully. Here's what I'm talking about. I'm going to play out the next 10 days from the National Blended Model. Here we are, starting off relatively uneventful, and then right there we get going. This corridor in through here is when we're going to have to watch very carefully. Big southeastern ridge pumping in the moisture. Multiple shortwave troughs coming through. The west goes wet. The midsection of the country goes very active. And I'm quite concerned about severe weather that will stretch possibly all the way up into the northern Corn Belt. Northern Corn Belt, you may, starting at the end of this week, getting through the weekend and early next week, pick up a lot of rainfall. This will progress through Iowa, Illinois, Indiana with time. But I'm telling you, this is a pattern that is going to make middle and end of May show up very active in terms of severe weather. Okay, let's get into some of the details. First thing you're going to watch here, our upper level trough that made basically Mother's Day really quite raw and awful for a big section of the Corn Belt. Well, that system's going to be moving on off to the east. Outside of that, what you're going to see across much of the middle part of the country is just some widely scattered showers. If I play this forward, let's just get you up to early morning on Monday. Here we are. See it moving through Michigan, through the Ohio River Valley, toward the northeast. We have some widely scattered showers in that area. As you progress down here toward Florida, still some leftover thunderstorms. After that, we could see on the backside of this through parts of Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, some leftover showers. But then really outside of that region, much of the country is relatively calm. You can see a few regions dotted with showers as I move through the evening hours on Monday. As we progress into the overnight hours on Monday into early Tuesday morning, what are we going to keep an eye on? Keep an eye on Iowa. See some showers moving through there, maybe parts of North Dakota, even through parts of Arkansas as well. Widely scattered, though, event here. Oh, and by the way, it might be cool enough in the overnight hours and early morning on Tuesday to get some snow. That's right, snow in parts of the Northeast. But look out west. This is the first kind of lashing that the coastal parts of Northern California, Oregon, and Washington are going to get with the systems coming through. Meanwhile, showers still push through parts of Minnesota, push through parts of Wisconsin, and eventually through Michigan. Maybe clipping northern Illinois and Indiana and parts of Missouri as we progress into early morning on Wednesday. But you notice that overall we're not picking up major precip in this area, not like we've been seeing. But that's all about to change. This is the day 4 through day 10 precipitation anomalies. And you can see the influence of the southeast ridge pumping in the moisture. We can see a huge section of the country that's about to get very wet. And all of that is because that strong Pacific jet dips into a trough here that lifts like this. And that is a telltale sign that the midsection of the country is going to light up. But that moisture's got to come from somewhere too, so it's got to come out west as well, which means we're about to settle into, after we get through the middle part of this week, a much, much, much more active pattern, one that's also quite warm. Now look, the flow pattern of the atmosphere is going to tell us exactly what's going to happen. As I click play, look, to begin this forecast time period, getting you through early week, this deeper trough right here just bothering the Northeast. But that ridge that was over the Pacific Northwest, it brings in the warming pattern from the center part of the country. Now watch this again. As I get to about right there, this is where things really change. Wednesday night into Thursday. See the deep trough digging into California? See the ridge building in the middle part of the country? Yeah, and that's the return of warmth we need for the Corn Belt. But I told you the atmospheric angular momentum is high. It's moving. And look at what happens by the time we get into Friday and Saturday. That trough digs right in through here, ridge pumping in the moisture like this. And this is a pattern that absolutely lights up the midsection of the country. And I want you to watch this with me. You ready? I'm just going to keep playing. You see if the pattern changes from the 18th all the way to the end of the month with me. Ready? The answer is no. It just keeps going and going and going. That southeastern ridge is just kind of a permanent feature. The trough coming in from out west just doesn't relent. And it appears, at least this is what the European ensemble is telling us, that it's a pattern we're going to see hang on maybe to the end of the month and the beginning of June. So what does it mean in terms of precip? Well, let's look at the longer term outlook here from the European model. Get things playing. There's the first system moving toward the northeast. Overall, higher pressure occupies much of the middle part of the country. But like I said, look, pesky showers moving through parts of Iowa on Tuesday midday. You can see this is now Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, moving through parts of Michigan, Wisconsin, Illinois, through the eastern Corn Belt. That's just annoying showers. Thursday, early morning, we're watching a system skirt along the U.S.-Canadian border, maybe bringing some showers here to the north central plains and into Minnesota. Moving through Wisconsin and Michigan as we progress into the afternoon hours on Thursday. But then the real show gets going here. This front is actually connecting up to a deeper trough here that's going to initiate a low right in this area. So maybe on, let's call this late Thursday night into Friday, watching for some showers and storms to move through this corridor here. But watch, as that front dips south, ridge builds in here, moisture pump gets going, it gets windy, it gets high humidity. And look at this. This is now getting into Saturday, and the storm systems just start cranking in the middle part of the country. We're going to be talking about this all week because this pattern shift at the end of the week where we go back to that southeastern ridge just keeps fueling storm system out of storm system that stretches from the west coast through the Corn Belt, and it's going to make for a very, very active end of this week and much of next week. So we got to get ready for this, okay? Putting it all together, next 15 days total accumulated precipitation. Look at the protection of the southeast ridge, bringing in the heat and the drier conditions here. Look at how wet the European model is in this area. GEFS, that's the GFS ensemble. Again, see it? Same pattern. This is a pattern we're going to have to really watch carefully as we progress forward through the end of the month of May. And in my long-range update, which will come out midday on Wednesday, I'll be talking about the latest updates from the European model going all the way through the next 6 weeks. And one of the things we're seeing, this is the first week of June. You notice with me the higher heights here, the trough that tries to do that? The European model's hinting at keeping this wet and active pattern at least through the beginning of June. We're going to have to see what the newest updates look like. And I'll give that all to you midday Wednesday, my.nutrienagsolutions.com. So we'll talk about that longer range forecast. To finish this up, I want to take you on a quick global tour here. We're going to go first to Europe. Over the next 5 days, we're still dealing with this highly amplified pattern, keeping much of the Russian wheat belt warm, but this pattern is moving east with time, and we see here that once we get out to day 5 through 10, much of Western Europe begins on a bit of a warming trend. We start to cool down some of that Russian wheat belt here, bringing in some cooler temperatures north of the Black Sea. So that's a change there. Also, we're going to see our precipitation pattern shift too, bringing wetter conditions here with drier conditions moving through parts of Western Europe, really getting into parts of the UK there as well. So I want to give you a quick update about Europe. I also want to take you quickly to parts of China. We're going to have to start paying close attention to this region. That's their highly productive region in China in terms of growing some of the major grains we grow in the United States as well. So right now we see they're picking up very normal spring rains here over the next 10 days, picking up between 3/4 and some locations over an inch of precipitation. Very wet in southeastern China, though. It looks as though we're getting an early setup of maybe the Mayu front down there. We'll have to talk about that and see what's going on. India has had a very hot week. They're going to continue on their drier pattern until the monsoon sets up much, much later in June. And just to let you know, there's not much of a story coming out of South America right now. In fact, CONAB just upped a lot of their production values for all of the crop coming out of South America this year. But with that, I'm going to stop kind of the global tour right there, and we'll go ahead and wrap up this forecast video. We at Nutrien Ag Solutions hope you look forward to all of our forecast videos coming out this week. I hope you have a great week, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you.